So in the Mayan number system, it is base 20, sort of, with a couple of twists. The first twist is they only have 3 digits. And their digits are a 0, which is a shell, and there's my version of their 0. They have a 1, which is a dot or a pebble, and they have a 5, which is a bar or a stick. So these are related to our 0, our 1, and our 5. The other twist are their places. So they had 2 versions of the number system. They had the scientific, religious version, which is how they did calendar predictions of astronomical events. But then there was kind of the common merchant system. The common merchant system was strictly a base 20 with these digits. The scientific religious one had a slightly different place. Their places went from bottom to top. Switch color. So at the bottom were their 1s. Above the 1s were the 20s. Okay, so it's a multiplication by 20 because we're grouping by 20, and the merchant system multiplied by 20 again, but I'm going to do the other version. The other version of the Mayan multiplied by 18, so this is the scientific one, and this is the one I put in the homework questions. And so 18 times 20 gives me 360 is the next place as opposed to 400. After that, they continued to multiply by 20 again. So if we multiply that by 20, then the next place would be the 7,200. Yes. So that'd be the next place. Okay, so this is the one again I call the scientific version or the religious version. Their religion and their science were one and the same. And they were quite the astronomers. Oh, if I could spell. All right. So once I have the bases, right, I need to know what their place values are. I need to know what the digits are. And then generally I'm grouping by 20, but I get this one weird thing happening in the middle where I have to look for groups of 18. So as far as converting, let's try this year or next year for fun. Take the year 2021. We want to convert that from base 10 into Mayan. And Mayan, I can't kind of write it in that box right there. I'm going to have to stack it up. But first I have to look for groups. So we have to decide what's the biggest group we need. So I'll do this a couple of different ways. The, let's see, 7,200 is a bit too big. So the 3,600 is the biggest I need. So one way is kind of the counting back change way I talked about. You take the biggest place and you see how many are there. So if I take 360 into 2021, I want to know what's the quotient and what's the remainder here. So whip out your calculators, help me out here. What is the quotient and the remainder for 360 goes into 2021? Hopefully we can agree on this. We played around with this in the class before using calculators.
5 with a remainder of 221, I think.
221, okay. Let's see if we get some validation on that. All right, so we got the 5 quotient there, and then the trick I went over before was then we get rid of the quotient, the 5, to figure out what the remainder is, and to do that, we multiply back the divisor. And you are correct, 221 is the remainder. Nice. So then we move down to the next place, which is the 20s, so now we want to know how many times does 20 go into 221. Let's see, 20 goes into 105 times, so 200 would be 10 times, plus another one. I think this is 11 times with a remainder of 1. Anyone else get that? And again, doing something like that in your head on a test is dangerous. Should always double check. So again, that calculator method is we divide. We make a note of the quotient, which is the 11, and then we remove it. And then we multiply back in the divisor to see what part of 20 was left over. And there's my 1. Unless you're gifted with a calculator that does integer division. Some calculators do. All right, so we found that there are 5 groups of 360, 11 groups of 20, and then a 1 left over. So the Mayan version of this, the 360s goes at the top. So I have to show 5, which would just be a bar. And then under that, I just put a little bit of space. I want to show 11, which would be 5, 10, and then a 1 on top. So that would be my 11 20s. And then underneath that, I would put just my 1. So this right here is 2021 in Mayan, in red there. All right, I'll show the other method in just a second. Are there any questions on this? So I find the biggest place value I need, I divide quotient and remainder, and then I move down, dividing the remainders by the next place value to figure out how many I need. Okay, so next, let's look at the other method I talked about, which was the repeated division method. So the way that one works, I need a different color. How about black? So I'm going to squeeze it in over here. Is you consider these multiples that happen as you move through the places. So we start dividing by 20, which is the multiple that changes from one place to the next. Now, in most number system, it's always the same multiple, but in the Mayans, they have that little skip there. So I would start down here at the bottom by taking 20 into 2021. And so 20 goes in there. I think we already figured this out, didn't we? It's, oh no, we haven't done 20 into it yet. Okay, so 20 goes into 20 once, no remainder. 20 does not go into 2, but 20 goes into 21 once with a remainder of 1. So we should find out, if you want to use your calculator instead of doing short division, that it goes in 101 times with a remainder of 1. Can someone confirm that?
Yes, that's what I got.
Okay. So then the next divisor is going to be the 18 because that's the multiple to get to the next place. So this is what makes mine a little trickier. This step here has to get divided by 18, and that one I do not feel comfortable doing in my head. So I'm going to jump up here and ask my computer what is 101 divided by 18. And it says it goes in 5 times with a remainder of 11. And then the next thing is whatever the next multiple was. So the next multiple was 20 to get up to the next place. So I'm going to divide by 20. So 20 goes into 5 0 times with a remainder of 5. And that 0 quotient tells me I'm done. So my answer is there's 5 360s, there are 11 20s, and there's 1 1, which is the answer. We found a slightly different version. Usually with the Mayan, I like to do the first method because sometimes I forget to put the 18 there, especially under pressure. So those are the 2 different techniques for converting base 10 to Mayan in the scientific religious version of the Mayan number system. Sorry about that.